universe. Thank you for stopping by here at Comic Rhema. This is going to be a video for an entry to a contest, the only contest in the vinyl community, done by no other than Rob at Soundsstrange. Most of you guys should be familiar with his channel. If you're not, I kind of gonna give a little snippet about his channel. His channel is based heavily on classical music. I still remember the first time I saw one of his videos and I was just mesmerized and really attracted to the knowledge and his love and passion for classical music. I'm definitely going to be going back to many of his series he's done in the past. I really love his composer, Meet the Composer series, and he's done also kind of showcasing composers by certain years. Rob, thank you for your contribution to the vinyl community. I appreciate you, and I hope you continue to make videos for us. So Rob had us answer 5 prompts, and then he has 5 other prompts that are almost impossible unless you have really dissected and analyzed each and every one of his sentences he's ever spoken on his channel. But we're going to try our best to answer these questions. The first prompt, he wanted us to show a record that has a literary connection. I have a few on here. I have this album by Catman Records. I really love Catman. They do a good job on presenting. They were kind of like a first of its kind of like audiobooks before there were audiobooks. For this particular record, they have some poems by Walt Whitman. The main one is Crossing Brooklyn Ferry, and on the cover you have a picture there of the Brooklyn Ferry. Ed Begley, I believe, is the narrator for the poems on this. Walt Whitman, great poet, great author, great contribution to literature. You guys may know him by Leaves of Grass. I have this book, Walt Whitman, Words from America. It's very powerful. Stuff that he wrote, the stuff that he did, he traveled through all America. One of the things that impacted me, I have some great visuals on here. One of the things that impacted me is that when he traveled America, he definitely saw slavery as a big issue, and he believed that that was one of the issues that was going to divide America. So he was kind of like a prophet on its own, you can say. And I'm gonna try to paste some snippets of each record if I can. So try not to make my video too long, and kind of show you snippets of each record. So here's the snippet of some of Walt Whitman's poems.
Flood tide below me, I see you face to face. On the ferry boats, the hundreds and hundreds that cross, returning home, are more curious to me than you suppose. And you that shall cross from shore to shore years hence are more to me, and more in my meditations than you might suppose. It avails not, time nor place.
The next record I'm going to show you, most of you guys know I'm a man of faith, and I really like to dig into records that relate to my faith. And I found this record not that long ago, maybe about 2 years ago, and it's from this British band, progressive British band. They released only one record in 1971, and the band's name is Salamander, and they released this record called The 10 Commandments, and it's based on the Bible. It's based on the passage where God gives the 10 Commandments to Moses. And this album has 10 tracks, and each track is based on each commandment. So I'll show you guys here a snippet of this album here, and it's pretty beautiful. A lot of people compare them to the Moody Blues, a little bit almost like the first Moody Blues album, but I think it's a good representation of its time and of the bands that were kind of active and putting out music at that time. But then the concept was what's kind of stands out from this band. Their instrumentation is pretty good. They also have orchestral work on this album, so that's one aspect that I really love about this album. So let me give you a sample of the first track from the 10 Commandments. Next prompt that Rob wanted us to answer was to show an album that has an artistic connection, and I have to show something comic related. So this is Matsuo Ono. I think this release was from 70s, maybe 79. Might have been earlier. This release, he was a Japanese artist who was really impacted and influenced by Stockhausen, his electronic music. He produced some work. This is one that he produced. This is called Roots of Electric Sound. He produced this album using synthesizers, machines, electronics. And what ended up being used for the Astro Boy TV show that came out at the time. To me, Osamu Tezuka, who was the creator of Astro Boy, has been one of my favorite artists of all time. He's written great work. This is the first issue of Astro Boy. Really great stuff. This stuff is a little bit more kid friendly, because Tezuka did really write some heavy concept work. He did an extensive series on the Buddha's life. I believe this series was about maybe 9 or 10 volumes, and they're all about this thick. When I read this first book, it was quite a journey. I read heavily, and there's only maybe about 2 books that have ever brought tears to my eyes, and this was one of them. This was highly emotional. This was highly emotionally charged. Definitely. Tezuka for me is probably one of the greatest artists to ever live. The next prompt, Rob wanted us to answer a question and show some records that have a connection to history. I'm going to show this record. This is Kilapayun. In the Andean language, that means bearded man. Kilapayun was a Chilean group from Chile, and about 1973 or 74, get my dates mixed up. You might know that Chile had pretty much a revolution where there was lots of murders, killings, a lot of pain going on at that time. And this was one of the groups that was out at the time that was actually singing social songs, social activist songs. And Victor Jara was one of the main artists at that time who was singing and really getting the people united. Album has one of Victor Jara's song Plegaria a un Labrador. And to kind of connect that to history, this is one of his records here. This is Levántate y mira la montaña. I believe this was released posthumously after he died. I think Rob showed one of his records in one of his videos, Recordando Amanda. I only have that on CD, which is a great album. This has some of the tracks that's on that record. Victor Jara was a teacher. He studied to be a priest, but ended up stopping and was more involved in being an activist. He was really outspoken, and definitely that was why he was targeted, and why in 1973 he was actually murdered with various other people. Why I wanted to show this record is because that was in 1973. In 2019, what's happened is that Jara's family has been in courts trying to bring justice for the death of Victor Jara. And what ended up happening is that last year there was one specific, I believe he was a general, who was found guilty of the murder of Victor Jara. The problem is that he's now a citizen of the United States who lives in Florida. He's refusing to go to Chile to accept his sentencing. He claims that he is innocent. There's a very cool documentary on Netflix if you have not checked that out yet. Very, very informational. So that's why I bring that up. It's definitely a part of history, and it's definitely relevant now in these days.
El derecho de vivir, poeta Ho Chi Minh, que golpea de Vietnam a toda la humanidad.
The next prompt that Rob wanted us to answer is to show a record that's not in English. I'm going to show this record. This is Los Bukis. These are the guys back here. This is the album Si Me Recuerdas. And why I'm showing you this is because this was actually one of the records that I remember my dad had while we lived in Mexico. And whenever I play this takes me back to the 80s when I was growing up, 90s. It just brings me to that time. And Los Bukis was definitely a great band that's very well known in Latin America. I kind of want to compare them to the Beatles. I'm not sure if that's the right comparison, but you can say kind of like the Spanish Beatles. Played a lot of ballads, love songs. Los Bukis. Bukis, it's a Spanish Mexican word for little kid. So basically their name is Little Kids, and definitely brings memories of my childhood, of my hometown, and it has been a very special place in my heart. I was really blown away when I actually ran into this and a couple of other records. Then Rob wanted us to answer the next question. Had to deal with a record that taught you something. I think every record has taught me something, especially if they have liner notes. If a record has liner notes, they usually dive into like the history, kind of like the influence that went into the record. One of the newest records that kind of went, one of the newest records that I have in my collection that has taught me something is this record here. This is Kev Brown's delve into classical mood. This is actually a hip-hop album. It's just hip-hop instrumentals, and it does not have liner notes. But let me tell you what the album is. What the album is hip-hop beats. I think it's about 10 tracks, and each track has snippets of, I believe is the Moog, I believe it's Dr. Moog, who's given an interview, and he's kind of explaining how the Moog synthesizer was developed, kind of like the ideas building and to the Moog synthesizer, kind of shared some ideas on the background and how the music was created, and kind of like how the Moog synthesizer actually works. So definitely hearing this album actually taught me a lot about the Moog synthesizer. So if you guys want to get a little bit more familiar of the history of the Moog synthesizer, definitely check this album out. Kev Brown, Delve into Classical Moog. And I forgot to mention this record that I wanted to show for the artistic connection. And this artist has been very special to me, because I remember growing up in LA and I saw his art everywhere. And he was one of the biggest inspirations for me to kind of study graphic design, and as well as I was developing my graffiti art style. And one of the records that he designed was this one by Bush called The Sea of Memories, and the artist is Rhema. He's an artist, graffiti artist from here, Los Angeles, California. And if you ever see this font or this calligraphy of style, he is the originator of that font calligraphy style. This is not the only type of art that he does. His style has had a great evolution and transition ever since I was a little kid to now, where he's exploded. Now people are hiring him and people are paying for his graffiti art. So definitely want to represent LA, and this is a great artist that if you're not familiar with, you should check out his art. Now we get to the hard part of the contest entry, and Rob wanted us to answer 5 prompts. The first one is to name his favorite film. Sorry, Rob, I don't know your favorite film. Completely apologize. And you wanted us to name another soundtrack that you have in your collection. I know you have a Space Odyssey in your collection, the Ormandy version, for sure. Their second question was to name 2 albums from the year you were born. I believe you were born in 1974, and 2 albums that I know you have from that year are Queen 2 and Frank Zappa's Apostrophe. Then you wanted us to name 2 composers you have the most of. They start with the same letter, so I'm gonna go with the B's. The 2 B's, usually the 3 B's are Bach, Beethoven, and Brahms. But I'm gonna go with Beethoven and Boulez. Boulez was a composer, he was a writer, he was a musician, he was like pretty much everything. So I'm gonna count him as a composer for this one. And if I'm wrong that, if it's 2 S's, might be Shostakovich and Stockhausen. And number 4, which album was the main inspiration to you? And I think it has to deal with, I think it's connected to number 5, which asked us to name the tunes of the guitar tunes that we were playing. And you did say you started in 1990, so I went ahead and kind of thought about what albums came out in 1990, and I think the songs you were playing were from Neil Young's Ragged Glory. the songs from that album you were playing, if I'm correct on this, might be Farmer John, Mansion on the Hill, Love and Only Love, maybe Over and Over, and Days That Used to Be, if I'm correct on that, hopefully. If not, hoping to get some extra credit. I have my guitar here, and I'm gonna play a little something for you, and hopefully you enjoy it. So here we go. Hope you like that tune. It's called In the World That Thinks God Is Dead and Elvis Is Alive. God bless everyone for watching this episode. Thank you, Rob, for having this contest. Keep up the great work. God bless you, and I'll see you guys on the next one.